Theresa May's extraordinary attack on the EU. She claims they're trying to influence the result of the general election. In an outspoken speech, the Prime Minister claims Europe's position on Brexit has hardened.
Threats against Britain have been issued by European politicians and officials. All of these acts have been deliberately timed to affect the result of the general election that will take place on the 8th of June.
With 36 days to go, it came as Europe's chief negotiator warned Britain's EU exit will not be pain-free.
There is no punishment. There is no Brexit bill. The financial settlement is only about settling the accounts.
Also tonight, guilty, the student who planted a homemade bomb packed with ball bearings on the London Underground. The revolutionary new bionic arm invented by British scientists. And missing middles, cracked and warped, the new pound coins that are falling apart.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Theresa May launched an extraordinary attack on Brussels today, accusing politicians and officials of making threats and deliberately trying to affect the outcome of the general election. Speaking in Downing Street after visiting the Queen, Mrs May said the last few days have shown that some in the EU do not want Britain to succeed in Brexit talks. She said that's why the country needs her strong and stable leadership. Our political correspondent Libby Vina on the battle over Brexit.
More of a courtesy call than a constitutional necessity. Theresa May headed to Buckingham Palace this afternoon to inform the Queen Parliament had been dissolved. And so the election was officially on. But returning to Downing Street, it soon became clear that something else was afoot. She spent little time attacking Labour, instead turning her guns on Brussels, claiming officials there were trying to skew the election.
The European Commission's negotiating stance has hardened. Threats against Britain have been issued by European politicians and officials. All of these acts have been deliberately timed to affect the result of the general election that will take place on the 8th of June.
That extraordinary claim was followed by another, that some were trying to sabotage a deal.
But the events of the last few days have shown that whatever our wishes and however reasonable the positions of Europe's other leaders, there are some in Brussels who do not want these talks to succeed, who do not want Britain to prosper.
If Brussels and perhaps the voters hadn't got the message yet, there was more.
If we let the bureaucrats of Brussels run over us, we will lose the chance to build a fairer society with real opportunity for all.
Just a week ago, in the same street, she'd greeted the Commission President with a kiss. But briefings afterwards dramatically raised tensions. He reportedly called her deluded. In public today, though, before her attack, he was trying to be polite.
I deeply respect the British Prime Minister. I like her as a person. I have noted that she's a tough lady, so this is not for the future. This is a real-time description.
But the man who'll lead the negotiations, Michel Barnier, failed to quash speculation today that Britain's exit bill could be an eye-watering €100 billion and warned Brexit couldn't be pain-free.
Some have created the illusion that Brexit would have no material impact on our lives, or that negotiations can be concluded quickly and painlessly. This is not the case.
Theresa May's gamble is that talking tough will strengthen her hand at home and abroad. But the danger is she risks alienating the very people with whom she needs to get a deal. Libby Vina, ITV News, Westminster.
Well, Joel Hills is in Brussels for us now. So, Joel, what's been the response there?
Well, the on-record response from Barnier and Juncker is that both men have said all they have to say on this matter. Off the record, though, officials are very dismissive of the allegation there's been an attempt to influence the British election. And tonight, a senior Juncker aide accused the media of creating havoc an interesting position given that the EU is widely believed to have been behind the leaks of that private meeting between Theresa May and Jean-Claude Juncker last week. Talks haven't even begun yet officially, and lots of high emotion. How sceptical should we be? Synthetic rage, political rage can often appear synthetic. We know that from long experience, and entrenched positions can suddenly soften. But if common ground is to be found, there needs to be trust, and tonight there's a lot of ill feeling here in Brussels.
Joel Hales in Brussels, thank you. Well, here the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn accused Theresa May of attacking Brussels to distract from her government's economic failures. And the SNP's Nicola Sturgeon said Mrs May's speech was deeply irresponsible and could poison Brexit negotiations. Our political correspondent Romilly Weeks reports.
So the 2015 Parliament is no more. Day one of 36 days of battling for your vote on June the 8th. And already there's no escaping Brexit.
It doesn't seem to have a strong scent. It needs to come out a little bit more.
Jeremy Corbyn had been hoping to talk about the NHS today until Mrs May's Brussels bombshell.
The risk to this country is a government that sets up megaphone diplomacy ahead of serious negotiations, that threatens to walk away from those talks if they don't go their way. Our view is you work with people. You don't threaten at the start.
Campaigning in Oxfordshire, Tim Farron was caught up in his own Brexit argy-bargy.
Do you not think and not have people telling us we're going to pay £100 billion to get out? And do you not? If that's your policies, I hope you get beat. I hope you only get 6 seats.
Well, thank you very much. It's been nice to talk to you.
The Lib Dem leader might not have convinced that voter, but he believes Mrs May is making a strategic error.
It is a cold and calculated choice by Theresa May to try and make our neighbours in Europe into our enemies just so that she can win a few more votes. It is a political decision by her, and it's not worthy of the office of Prime Minister.
The SNP went even further.
Theresa May is playing a game here that is about trying to paint the EU as a bogeyman and hope then that nobody will want to focus on her record.
UKIP, the only party that felt Theresa May hadn't gone far enough.
The Prime Minister needs to note that the British people weren't bluffing on June the 23rd last year, and as yet nobody believes that she as Prime Minister is not bluffing in her approach to Brussels.
Now then.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to get off my chest, Mr Farron.
You're very welcome.
Back in Oxfordshire, Mr Farron and his accuser eventually agreed to bury their differences. The rift between Theresa May and Brussels might be rather harder to mend. Romilly Weeks, ITV News.
Well, let's go over now to our political editor, Robert Peston in Downing Street. Now, Robert, Theresa May is clearly spoiling for a fight with Brussels, isn't she? But how big a gamble is it?
Look, millions of British people voted for Brexit, and they love it when they see a British Prime Minister trying to beat up Brussels, and Theresa May knows that. And let's not forget there are quite important local and mayoral elections tomorrow, which she's also acutely aware of, and she hopes that what she said will have an influence on getting her supporters out tomorrow. But there are two risks. One is, with still 5 weeks to go before the general election, ramping up the rhetoric to this degree now, what do you ask yourself? Where on earth is she going to go next? As I say, weeks more to go. Secondly, if this is seen as an attack on Juncker and perhaps his most senior official, Martin Selmayr, a clever German lawyer, and restricted to an attack on them, then the rest of the EU may allow that this is almost legitimate. But if it is seen as an attack on the wider EU and they close ranks and gang up against us, well, then the risk of us tumbling out of the EU without a deal increases, and even she accepts that would be very painful indeed.
OK, Robert Peston in Downing Street, thank you. OK, let's move on to other news now. And a student is tonight facing years behind bars after being found guilty of planting a bomb on a tube train. 20-year-old Damon Smith packed a rucksack with explosives and ball bearings and left it on a London Underground train last October. Detectives say it was only luck that it failed to detonate and that no one was injured. Neil Connery has more.
Hello everyone, I am going to shoot my gun.
Damon Smith's obsession with weapons of all kinds started in his childhood. But last October, the student who has Asperger's syndrome planted a homemade bomb on a busy tube train. This was Smith boarding a Jubilee Line train carrying a rucksack packed with explosives and ball bearings. He gets off at the next stop, leaving the rucksack containing the bomb on board. A passenger spots it, handing it to the driver. Minutes later, the driver sees wires and evacuates the train at the next station.
I'm Damon and I live in London and I go to university.
This was Damon Smith being interviewed by police. The autistic student said he only meant the device to spew harmless smoke as a Halloween joke.
I thought it would be a good time to leave my bag for a prank.
The court heard Smith left the rucksack packed with explosives and shrapnel on a tube heading here for North Greenwich Station. Had the device detonated as planned, it would have gone off as passengers were leaving the platform. Smith built his device at home with a £2 clock from Tesco after searching an Al-Qaeda article on the internet about making bombs.
If it had detonated, it certainly would have endangered life. Without a doubt would have caused mass casualties and certainly would have caused substantial damage to the underground system.
Damon Smith will be sentenced at the end of the month after further psychiatric reports. Neil Connery, ITV News.
3 people in their 40s have been arrested over the murder of Guy Hedger. The 61-year-old was shot dead in a suspected burglary on Sunday at his luxury home in Dorset. Rebecca Barry is at the scene tonight. So, Rebecca, what's the latest then on the investigation?
Well, detectives have been given extra time to question 3 people in connection with the murder that took place here at the weekend. Guy Hedger, who was 61, was shot dead in his own home during a suspected burglary. Now, a 41-year-old man from Bournemouth has been arrested on suspicion of murder and aggravated burglary, while a man and a woman also in their 40s have been arrested on suspicion of conspiracy to commit murder and conspiracy to commit aggravated burglary. Meanwhile, police have been searching 2 houses in the surrounding areas. We were at one of those searches today and neighbours told me that they saw armed police knocking down the front door of a house, and we saw sniffer dogs and detectives cutting back undergrowth as they searched for potential evidence. Dorset police insist they are working tirelessly on this investigation, which has shocked this otherwise peaceful community.
Rebecca Barry in Dorset, thank you. Profits at Sainsbury's have dropped for the 3rd year running, falling by more than 8%. The supermarket blamed a drop in consumer confidence for fewer sales in clothing and general merchandise. It also said it was hit by rising costs, but says it's trying not to pass on price increases to customers. A former teammate of footballer Aaron Lennon has told ITV News the player will need time and space to recover after being detained under the Mental Health Act. The 30-year-old England and Everton star was taken to hospital on Sunday when police became concerned for his safety. Our sports editor Steve Scott reports.
As a 16-year-old, Aaron Lennon became the youngest ever footballer to play in the Premier League. He's been an ever-present in the top flight since then.
And what a start for Aaron Lennon.
Along the way, he won 21 caps for England. On Sunday, concerned for his welfare, police detained Lennon next to a busy road in Salford. In a short statement, his club Everton said today, Aaron Lennon is currently receiving care and treatment for a stress-related illness. The club is supporting him through this, and his family has appealed for privacy at this time. Former teammate Clark Carlisle, who uses his own experience to campaign on mental health issues, says Lennon needs time and space.
Whatever is going on in Aaron's life, it's not for us to ask. It's for him to know, for him to understand, and for him to address it, whatever his path is moving forward.
The football family has rallied round. Former club Spurs tweeted, "Get well soon, we're all thinking of you." And Jermaine Defoe, who played alongside him many times, said, "Thinking of you, stay strong, and I'll see you soon. God bless." Last year, the PFA was contacted by more than 60 current players asking for help on issues not unique to football.
We have such issues along other sports, happens in cricket, such issues in cricket, in rugby, throughout, and in society as well. And it's about dealing positively with the state of mind, and for such people to come out and let people know they have problems so they can be dealt with.
While Aaron Lennon's illness is not necessarily connected to his life as a footballer, As the sport wishes him well, it will inevitably be asking tonight whether it's doing enough to help those who play the game. Steve Scott, ITV News.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, why tennis legend Ilie Nastase has been banned from the Royal Box at Wimbledon this summer. And the funny money that may be worth more than £1. Those stories and more after the break. Join me then. Hello and welcome back. An amputee athlete who's been trialling a revolutionary bionic hand says it is completely mind-boggling. Doug McIntosh from Aberdeen has been using a new prosthetic limb which has cameras to help it see how to pick up different objects. It's been developed by scientists at the University of Newcastle, from where Damon Green reports.
An artificial hand that doesn't just grip, it can see the object it's reaching for. The latest invention by scientists trying to give back to those who've lost a limb the power to pick up and use any object, no matter how small or how delicate.
The person goes towards the object, sends one pulse to trigger the camera, and then the hand works out the best grasp for it and then goes to that. So the process that took about 2-3 seconds is now reduced to about 100 milliseconds.
Electronic engineers at Newcastle University wanted to find a way for an artificial hand to anticipate the grip it would need to use, and came up with the idea of fitting a camera that would take a still image of the object in front of it and then adapt its grasp automatically. Scientists hoping it'll be a step towards a prosthetic arm that can do whatever its wearer wants. Doug lost his arm to cancer 20 years ago. Until now, the best science had to offer him was a hand that could open or close in response to muscle movements. The prototype he's been using in the lab has been a revelation.
There was an emotional part of this because obviously it brought me back about 20 years, thinking, my hand was there 20 years ago and now it isn't. But I have to admit, there was excitement as well, actually making this thing move or functional, and I was really, I was so amazed with the whole thing, yep.
And it's the ability of a hand to grasp an object intuitively, its developers say, that makes us all human.
No other species can actually rotate their thumb to go and grab it, not even our closest cousin, monkeys.
So this is fundamental to being a human being?
This is fundamental to being a human being, to be able to grab objects, to be able to oppose your thumb and the little finger. This is the fundamental aspect of being human.
With every test, it gets better and better and learns more and more. Someday its inventors hope it will be within the grasp of anyone who needs it. Damon Green, ITV News in Newcastle.
10 years to the day since the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, a special service is taking place in the resort where she disappeared. Candles and cards have been left outside the church in Praia de Luz. Madeleine was just 3 years old when she went missing from a holiday apartment in 2007. Here, organisers of this year's Wimbledon tournament have banned former finalist Ilie Nastase from the Royal Box. The Romanian is currently suspended from international tennis after a series of foul-mouthed outbursts. And Richard Pallow joins me now. So the All England club have also condemned his actions.
Well, they have. It was no surprise, to be fair, and I don't think they were left with any choice. Now, Nastase is a very popular figure at Wimbledon. He's a 2-times finalist and a regular in that Royal Box. He often appears in what I describe as maybe an outrageous outfit, but it was his outrageous behaviour last month in a Federation Cup tie against Romania. He verbally abused badly the British team. He was thrown out of it, and there were scenes as far removed from the pristine image that I would imagine Wimbledon will want to cultivate and cherish. And so the All England club chairman said today his actions were not very good, we condemn them, and we're not going to invite him to the Royal Box this year. Now, he didn't rule out an invitation in future years, and also he did say if he turns up this summer with a ticket to try and get in, a legitimate ticket, he'll be banned because he's still suspended by the International Tennis Federation. One other piece of news, Maria Sharapova will find out on the 20th of June whether she gets in. She's, of course, just back from a doping ban. She may have enough points by then. More likely, she'll get a wild card into either the main draw or qualifying.
All right, Richard, thank you. The moment a small aircraft clipped a power line and crashed to the ground has been caught on camera. The single-engine plane plunged from the sky near Seattle in the United States. Some onlookers were pretty terrified, but incredibly, nobody was seriously hurt. And finally tonight, when the new £1 coin was rolled out a few weeks ago, we were assured, weren't we, it was created with groundbreaking technology. Some, though, have started to appear with serious manufacturing flaws. But as Rupert Evelyn reports, those who've got their hands on the funny money could have the last laugh.
In the world of coins, this is, we are told, cutting-edge money. And yet, despite the fanfare around their introduction at the end of March, the technology has imperfections. Thousands of new pound coins with faults such as gaps between the two parts of the coin and colours overlapping have been appearing in pockets and purses around the country. Given the design of the coin, which includes a multitude of security features, finding a faulty pound was something of a surprise to Sarah O'Donoghue.
It is very unusual and I was very surprised, and at first I thought that I was seeing it wrong. The silver bit seems to have been squashed on the outside of the outer ring of the gold one, and then when you turn to the back there's a slight gap there, and then on that side there is no clear line.
In total, the Royal Mint will make 1.5 billion of these coins here in South Wales. Given the quantity and the speed and process of manufacture, they accept that a tiny percentage won't quite make the grade. While it may be embarrassing for the Royal Mint, there is an upside, with coin collectors hoping to lay their hands on an unusual pound.
It's a rarity. Inevitably, these things shouldn't get out. The Royal Mint has somehow let some of them get out, so coin collectors want the mistakes. It's as simple as that.
Due to their abnormalities, some coins are already being auctioned off, and there is profit to be made, as a peculiar pound is worth more than its face value. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, South Wales.
And if you have any funny money, go to our website, itv.com/news, to see what it might be worth. That's it for now. Julie Etchings here with news at 10. But from me and all the evening news team, have a great evening. Bye-bye.